I was watching a girl, I'll attach her name. She was talking about proximity trap on Facebook. I mean, she had a strong point with her own analysis. But then I said, let me make a short video to respond. I mean, some people might consider proximity trap as negative, depending on who is involved and how you're able to harness the opportunity that proximity brings. So I asked, hold on, let me go on my iPad. Let's see what ChatGPT says about proximity trap. Proximity trap is the idea that once an activist, influencer, or movement leader gets too close to power, institutions, celebrities, politicians, or the military, people begin to question whether they still represent the people or whether they are slowly becoming part of the system they want challenged. So now, in the case of VDM, a conference or taking picture with the military officials, the symbol sometimes can create strong reaction, which is what is all over on the internet. Going through the internet space, you see a lot of people with mixed feelings. Some people will see strategy, like somebody like me actually see strategy. Others will see compromise, which a lot of people do. Which that is why it's a free, intelligent society. That is the proximity trap. Why proximity? Why does proximity matters? Why do I think VDM having conferences with soldiers or working with the police or influencers actually the strategic move, especially when it comes to Nigeria as a country? In activism and influence, perception is power. Perception is power. A moment a system begins inviting a critic into rooms of influence, right? The critic gains access. Somebody like VDM gains access, but also risk losing public trust. Some people might think he's been bought. Like Sean was saying, Sean made a video, I think it was this morning or yesterday, about that he's been bought.
Boy, when they jump from government house to government house, and government house, they jump, they go chop all the evil people of Africa money now in your pocket.
Blah 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 blah. I don't really want to go into all that. People begin speaking, so that's kind of one of those areas. Has he been bought? Is he still anti-establishment? Can he still criticize them freely? Is this collaboration or co-option? Or co-option? That tension is the trap, right? Just trying to differentiate between proximity and trap. But here is some advantage that I see. Advantage of proximity to power. One, access to real decision making. You cannot influence system from the outside forever. It's not possible. It is not possible. Even at work, you cannot. You cannot be a contributing member if you're at the table. Sometimes being in the room matters more than shouting outside the gate. You have to be in the room. If VDM gains direct communication, right, with institutions, or get access to policymakers like Senate and House of Rep, inside information opportunity, then there's an opportunity for him to really advocate for citizens. Because most of these people might not necessarily know. Then proximity becomes strategic rather than symbolic. This follows the principle, like I said, my previous videos. If you are not at the table, you may end up being on the menu. Legitimacy and national recognition is one of those things that proximity brings as well. A conference like the one he had with the military figures signals that the Rata movement is being taken seriously now. Not like before that it was just doing power, Also, institution recognizes influences. His voice has become impossible to ignore. That is very important. This can elevate the writer movement from online activism into a recognized social political force, which is what the writer movement should aspire to have, to be able to really cut the type of gain that VDM is, wants to make. Another advantage of proximity to power is opportunity to reduce conflict. In an unstable society like ours, Nigeria, tension between activists and state institutions can sometimes escalate dangerously. So in these cases, dialogue can prevent misinformation, reduce unnecessary hostility, create partnerships around social issues, open doors for reforms. Because VDM, as the writer movement, is a movement of grassroots, of ordinary Nigerians. So a mature movement eventually learns when to protest and when to negotiate. All this time, VDM has been, calling people out, and he still does it, going behind, trying to settle issues. But now he has come to the realization that sometimes you don't know to negotiate with the power to be, to really do have to have a significant influence, a significant change. He can be in his room and be shouting all day all he wants. He still needs the police, the judiciary system, the military to be able to fight crime, to bring justice. It's because you can't really do all this. You cannot make change in isolation. So, for advantage is strategic intelligence. Understanding how institution thinks is powerful. A movement fails when they only understand emotion but not system. VDM, I've seen a lot of writers, even supporters and non-supporters, says you must understand the system. Like somebody like me, I think you should understand the system before you can beat the system. You have to understand the system to be able to beat the system. Proximity can teach one how influence works, how narratives are shaped, how institutions protect themselves, where real leverage exists. These are things that proximity brings. That knowledge can then strengthen the movement long term. Because this writer movement is not a movement for tomorrow, for just one day, 1 year. It's hopefully a movement to last, even after we're gone. So movement often collapses. When people are talking about proximity or it's trap or this might not be good, but funny thing is, the truth is movement often collapses more from the internal confusion than external attacks. Will it benefit the writer movement a long term with this proximity to power, to influence? Potentially, but only if balance is maintained. The future depends on whether proximity becomes, if VDM is, I see VDM as a very smart man. If he's able to harness and see that, this proximity can be strategic engagement, or if he doesn't see it like that, and he's not really an emotional person, but allow himself to be emotionally attached to power, then that's where the trap comes in. It will help the movement if VDM, number one, remains independent, just like he is. And I pray that he continue to speak truth consistently, criticizes wrongdoing regardless of who is involved. Then it becomes an advantage. Because the truth is, either you are in or you're out. Really. But you have to be strategic though. So, otherwise you'll remain permanently outside power. So the danger of proximity is not proximity itself. The danger is forgetting why you entered the room in the first place. That is the real proximity trap. Peace.